Okie dokie.
Hello everyone, thank you for gathering here with me this morning. We're going to talk about something that we're all familiar with. We've heard it on the news. Some of us have experienced it in life. We're going to talk about what homelessness is, what it means, what some of the myths are behind it, how you can help someone without having to give them money. There's a lot of stereotypes behind it. Do any of you actually know what homeless means? It literally means someone who doesn't have a home. Whether it's a permanent residence, they live on the street, they live in a shack in the woods. If it's not a permanent address, it's considered homeless. Some of the reasons people become homeless can vary from individual to individual. It could be anything from mental illness, domestic violence, low income, poverty, which is a never-ending cycle. You don't make enough money to pay for your house, pay for your meds, pay for your food. You end up making sacrifices that ultimately sometimes end up with you on the street and nowhere to go. It happened to me just once, and it was 3 months of the worst hell I've ever been through in my life. I lived in a very, just a shell of a very gutted out trailer. But it wasn't due to anything I did. It was because I was trying to help another person, and that person left me there. So it took me 3 months to get out. I do understand what they go through. The shame, the helplessness, the inability to figure out what to do next. It can be very hard. But some of the reasons people are homeless is because mental illness. They have no money to get treatment or, medication that they need. Not all people are homeless by choice. Some are running from violence in their homes, abuse, and according to a website that I looked at, they call it From Future in Humanity, every given day there's 800,000 people that are homeless. 200,000 of them are children and families. That means 1/4 of my audience, if you are all homeless, 1/4 of you would be families. Would be small children, parents who work low income jobs, can't afford housing. That's another reason to be homeless, is because you can't afford to rent a place or buy a place. Another one is lack of health insurance. Your medical bills become so much that they take over everything. And you need your meds to survive, which means you have to choose between your medicines, and you have to choose between eating. If you choose eating, you lose the medications that you need to save your life. If you choose your medications, you could end up living on the street. It's a cycle. Some of the myths that surround being homeless is that if you give them money, they're just going to go spend it on alcohol and drugs. That's not always true. Some people do it just because they want to. There are cases on the news where people who live in $1 million homes are on the street begging. Those are rare. They're not as common as the person who was a vet who came back and had post-traumatic stress syndrome. He got so bad that he ended up on the street. It was not something due to his control. He developed a mental illness while in serving our country, but yet our country let him fall through the cracks. There's a lot of veterans that live on the street. There's a lot of children from abused homes. Just because you give them money does not mean that they are going to go spend it on drugs or alcohol. If you don't want to do that, then go ahead and donate time. It takes an immense amount of charity and goodwill to sit down with a perfect stranger and talk to them. But you sitting there talking to them might actually be more helpful to them than you giving them money. Just to have someone say, hey, I understand. Sometimes is all it takes. Another way you can help is you can donate to places like Habitat for Humanity. You can donate to food shelters. There's a good one up in Grand Rapids that was on the news recently. You can buy $2 tickets and give them to homeless people, and they can take it there, and they can get food, they can get clothes, they can get medications. Another myth that we have is that the public presumes that because you're homeless, you're unclean, and you have a disease. That is not true. from the homeless people that I have known personally, they are some of the cleanest people I've ever seen. And they're disease-free. They're not just sponging off the community. A friend of mine, who was a very dear friend of mine in Missouri, was homeless, but he was homeless by choice because he wanted to be. He didn't want to be tied down to anything. He made a living digging for roots like ginseng and bone mint and other roots like that and selling them. And he took his money and spent it on people who needed it. Another myth that I hope to dispel is not all homeless people are crazy and psychotic. They're not. They're really not. They're very gentle and they're very nice people. Very rarely do you get someone that comes up to you and says, do you have a dime? And you give them a dime and you just walk away. The problems we have is because of we as a nation don't know what to really do with this population. We can't accurately account for them because it's ever shifting and ever changing. But I want you to keep in mind, any given day, 800,000 people are on the street, and 1/4 of them, 200,000, are children and families. That you can help by just donating time, clothes, food. You can, I was homeless for 3 months. I sympathize with them. I wasn't homeless by choice, but it took me 3 months to get it back. And I want to thank you all for being here. And thank you for listening to my speech.
Yay!
I hope that was nice. Thank you.